in UK. But I think, and equally, you might have seen the news that what is really becoming to the front now is the anti-racism and the anti-fascism protests that are happening in UK. Today, there was a massive protest in London. There were a number of clashes as well. You might have seen there were clashes between people protesting against the racism in the country, and there were people who were protesting as a far right element against the immigration and the rise of too many minorities in Britain as well. And there were active clashes that happened in front of Parliament Square. And there were clashes outside the Waterloo station. And then I think I was reading that there are still reports of so many people being a bit injured as well due to these clashes happening in London. But overall, I think, interestingly, if you walk out in London, in any other area at the moment, apart from these epicenter of clashes happening in some of the more politically charged areas like near the Downing Street or the Parliament or Waterloo area, it seems to be that everyone is out in London today. I think the weather was nice. All the parks were brimming full. Many people are walking, many people are jogging, many people are enjoying the socially distanced picnics, as it is now known that you need to be 2 meters away from others. But it is happening and things are getting better. And I think globally, again, as I briefly mentioned about the issue of racism, and there is more and more debate on how the society in many of the Western countries has given rise to this racism. And if you think about it, to a certain degree, the whole concept of the World War I and World War II centered around this concept of one race being better than the other. The rise of the Nazism, as we know in Germany, was pretty much on the basis that there is a certain degree of supremacy for the white race compared to any other race. In US, it's very interesting. I think many of you might be aware of it, that once in 1860, Abraham Lincoln, a very famous president of US, he came to the power in US, and his platform was a single announcement that he will abolish slavery in the United States. And when he came to the power, that's where in 1861, we all know that the slavery-oriented states and the I think that basically come to the fore of it. There were actually 6 states in United States. They are known as the Confederate States, and I think many of you might have read about them. The southern United States of South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. These all announced that we can't abolish slavery. So if Abraham Lincoln, as the new president, is going to abolish the slavery, we are going to start a civil war, and we are going to cut off from the rest of the United States. And they created their own Confederate state, as it is known. And it started the American Civil War, as many of you might be aware of it already, during 1860 to 1865. It was a 5-year civil war between these states and the rest of the states. And it's very interesting. If you read the history and you see why this racial divide still happens in US, is because all these slaves that were brought in by Africa to work into the plantations of the eastern coast of America, there were many, many farms in there, there were many plantations, and the whole economy was revolving around slaves working really hard in tough conditions across these farms and creating the output, which was then exported throughout the world, creating the economic cycle in the United States. Lincoln came to power and he said that I'm going to abolish slavery. And then it gave rise to the Civil War. And so many things, I think, combined together in there. And it's interesting. If you read the history of the Civil War, the vice president of these Confederate states, the 6 states they were known at that time, he actually came in to announce it and say that the whole ethos of our state is based on the fact that the white race is supreme to the Negro, or the kind of the black oriented, and the abusive words that are used for that race. And this again is the reality of the country that we know as the freedom-oriented country, or the leaders of freedom, as it is known in the whole world, and where the whole the economic orientation of the Western world starts from in US, where the whole cultural orientation via Hollywood, as you might be well aware of it, it is a method of soft power that the United States really controls pretty much all across in different areas, on the way they are able to influence fashions, on the way they are influencing minds, on the way they are able to show people a greater degree of superiority from their soft arts, from their movies, from any other domain that they really enjoy across the world. And the basis of the issues that we see across the kind of dividing lines of racism across UK, US, and some of the other areas really goes back into the history in that domain as well. And I think it's fascinating, and I think I would definitely encourage that we all should really read and understand on where these issues are coming in from. Why is that the Black orientation, or the kind of people from the Black minorities and communities are still not represented in the best manner in any state in the Western country, whether it be UK, across Europe, in US? Why they were brought in as slaves, why they were working as slaves, and why now, since centuries have passed, I mean, decades have passed. Slavery was abolished back in 1870s in US and 1880s. So it's more than 100 years now, but there's still a major gap. If you pick out any major corporate world in UK or globally, you would see that it is dominated by a very small portion of people, and there is very little representation of minorities. You pick out any government servants, or you pick out the major politicians, you pick out the prime ministers of a major country, you pick out a number of different areas, and you will see that even when the population on a global scale is less in the Western countries and in US, their representation on a global scale is much more than anything else in that domain. So I think these are issues that have been historically of real importance, and now they're coming to the light of it. And where that is where we need to really understand from an Islamic and a Muslim perspective, we need to be aware of what is happening around us. What is the historical reasons behind the tensions and the injustices that have given up, and they have become this kind of foundation of the society that we live in, and where and how we can go towards the proper declaration of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam last sermon, as we recall it and we believe in it as a true guiding principle of any society, when he said that there isn't any superiority for anyone based on a race. No Arab has any superiority over a non-Arab person. No Black has any